तो गुरुजी मेरी लाइफ में आते जाते रहे हैं since I think I was 18-19 years old, which is now I'm 44, so it's been many years. But Guruji used to always say कि मेरे जाने के बाद संगत इतनी बढ़ेगी, you know, and you will all be very surprised. Today when I'm sitting here all the way from Delhi, looking at this, I have actually goosebumps. I don't know how many of you have met Guruji in his physical form, but it's quite crazy how, Guruji, you're actually quite right that you have found such a beautiful satsang even in Sangat in America. So he's quite a celebrity, I must say. So I'm actually feeling very blessed. I wasn't going to come. I've had a little bit of a medical emergency with my daughter, who also happens to be Guruji's daughter. And somehow he made me sit on that flight and come. But सबसे पहले मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहूँगी, गुरुजी को लंबे सत्संग अच्छे नहीं लगते थे, तो बट इसलिए मैंने अपना सत्संग कभी किसी के साथ शेयर नहीं किया, मे बी once or twice. आप लंबा सत्संग सुनना चाहेंगे या छोटा? सबसे पहले आप मुझे ये बताइए. ठीक है. Just don't even know where to start. Guruji has always been a part of our family. Going back, I think when Guruji was in Punjab, my grandfather was governor of Punjab then, so I hear that he had met him in Dugri. And when Guruji came to GK2, GK1, my family, which is my grandparents' generation mein, everybody used to go to him and meet him. I know my mother also, who's no longer there, she passed away with COVID. But I know my mom also went to him in his difficult times. And so he was on and off somebody that I'd heard of. I'd never met him. I actually started meeting Guruji when I was, I think, 19 or 20 years old. My boyfriend, now husband, his mother used to really believe in Guruji. And Guruji is a big matchmaker. I don't know if you've heard that. He used to love matchmaking. And Guruji was very fond of my mom-in-law. And he used to always tell my mom-in-law ki, you know, for your son, I'm going to find a very beautiful wife. And finally my mother-in-law had to say that, listen, he's already found himself a life partner. So he said, acha bulao. That was the first time I actually met him, not through my family, even though they were so associated with him. I met him through my mother-in-law. And I went to meet him because he had come to somebody's home. I touched his feet and, you know, he just looked at me and he said, Punjabi mein, khush raho. Bas, raat gayi, baat gayi. That was my interaction with Guruji. Completely forgot about it. And there were one or two instances where I now think back that I was blessed by him, even when I was very chota. But my actual sangat starts at the age of, I think, 26, 27. Guruji had a very old sangat, someone who was a big part of his life. I won't take Auntie's name, but she had her own sangat, but Guruji made her have, Guruji also makes people love having babies, by the way. He just loves that. So he actually made that lady have, she already had 2 daughters. She made him have another baby. And she kept saying, you know, I already have 2, but I have 2 girls. Itne bade ho gaye, why are you forcing me to have another baby? Anyway, Guruji ke saath you never say no. So of course she had another baby. Hers was also very complicated. But unfortunately, after about 6-7 years of having the second baby, her middle daughter passed away. And a friend of mine knew this auntie. So my friend had mentioned my name because we were in the same profession and she had kind of mentioned my name to him. So on her daughter's chautha, this is what I hear, she apparently walked up to my friend and said ki, I want to meet Samaya, Guruji is calling her. So, you know, she came and said to me after about a week ki, my friend is saying ki you have to come to Guruji. And I'm somebody who hasn't been very God-fearing. I mean, I'm very karmic believer, but I'm not a ritualistic person. I feel I have a very scientific mind, so I don't believe in these things. Sorry, Guruji, you've really taught me lots of lessons. So I said, you know, I don't want to go. Mera na lena ko na dena. I don't know this lady, you know why. She was very persistent. And then my friend said, listen, she's just lost her baby. So this is the least you can do, is go and meet her. I went to meet her in the Bada Mandir. That time the Bada Mandir was not what the Bada Mandir is today. It was very quiet, very calm. There used to be one kitchen. It was all set up, but Guruji used to be in the Chota Mandir, which is an Empire Estate. I went to meet her, and she just looked at me. She had just lost her baby, I think 2 weeks before, her daughter, 13-year-old daughter. And she met me and she just said, Guruji has a message for you. You need to have a baby. So I said, okay, that's like crossing the line. You don't say this. And I had just been married, I think, 3 years, and we were moving to London. So I listened to her. I didn't want to be rude. And I said, yeah, sure, I will take this message back to myself. And, when I'm ready, I will have a baby. So this happened, I think, in October. And I moved to London the following October. So for 1 year, that Aunty Ji's agenda was only to constantly send me messages. Kabhi Guruji ka prasad. So I never used to go to the mandir. I just never was someone who went to the Bada Mandir. But for that 1 year, she used to send me prasad. If she went to the Golden Temple, she would send me patasa. One day she got me a cassette. Actually, wo purane zamane wala tape. And she said to me, by then I'd kind of become friends with her because that's Guruji's way, even though my scientific mind wanted to keep a distance from her, but I couldn't. So, one day and we became friends, but that part of Guruji was separate and I was separate. So she said, oh, by the way, Guruji has sent you a cassette, tape, sun lena. So I said, theek hai. I was driving, I put that cassette in there. It was the Mahamrityunjay mantra. And I remember then, my enunciation of Hindi itni अच्छी नहीं होती थी, but अब ये गुरुजी की छोटी-छोटी miracles, or however you want to call them, वो टेप ना खराब हो गया, तो उसके जो वायर्स नहीं निकलते थे, जो अटक जाते थे, it got encoded in the car का speaker, and it basically made me enunciate the Mahamrityunjay mantra in the most clearest form. And from that day to today, it is my go-to of any kind of faith or belief or instinct, that wo automatically it starts playing in the back of my head, and very clearly so. Sometimes I could be talking to people and it would start playing in my mind. And these are all things the scientific me doesn't want to believe, that I am also somebody who does that. In that 1 year, of course, lots of things happened. Guruji's chola came to my house. I was asked to make a chola for Guruji. So there were things that I was doing, not out of my Shraddha, but because I just didn't want to be rude. Let me say that. It was more that from, as opposed to being any kind of, ki main Shraddha se kar rahi thi. I didn't want to be rude to that auntie. So one day she said, Guruji's asked for a chola, and I said, acha, okay. And I believe it's a big blessing to be able to make a chola for Guruji when he's in his physical form. And I said, acha, I'll make it. And I still remember it. It was green with gold and little hints of black. And I made it and I sent it, and cut the long story short, we moved to London. And when we moved, she was very upset about the move, by the way, this Aunty Ji, who was controlling my life, by the way, for 1 year. And in all of this, Guruji didn't meet me at all. So it's not, see, these are things about Guruji that are very odd. So I never met him. So I used to feel ki, yaar, if he really wants to meet me, then he should call me. Why is he sending these messages from this random auntie who I don't even know? And when I moved to London for 2 years, a year and a half actually to be precise, because Guruji actually called me back, she was very upset. And then she took the liberty to call my husband up and said that, listen, I don't know why your wife is not listening. If you guys don't have a baby, your wife is going to fall very sick. So that's like, threatening to educated people who are whatever. So just so happened, I had a little bit of a very minor ailment. I'm not someone who falls sick very often, Jai Guruji. So for me also it was something out of the ordinary. And then you get superstitious कि कोई कह रहा है तो क्या बुरा हो सकता है. Anyway, we've been married for 5 years, कर लेते हैं. So my husband literally packed me off. Within 6 months of me supposedly have moved to London. I barely stayed there for 8 months. We were supposed to go for 2 years. And he said, listen, you're going to fall sick. You have to go back. I said, okay. And this is Guruji, right? We're educated people. Why would you do something so silly? I got on a flight. He stayed back. And his grandmother was very sick. So he said, anyway, I can't come. So you go back. So this auntie ji said that Guruji is, I'm going to pick you up at the airport. Like you know, आज भी जब मैं ये सत्संग सुनाती हूँ तो मुझे गूज़बम्प्स होते हैं क्योंकि हम ऐसे हैं ही नहीं. हम पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं जो साइंस को, you know, we believe in science and we believe in logic. So you don't follow a blind path like this. So he said, yeah, okay, you know, anyway, nobody's home, mom will come, you pick her up, and picked her up, and then she just looked at me, she picked me up from the airport, and she said, Guruji sent a message that you have to meet a doctor that is chosen by Guruji. And I'm sharing something which is very personal. My husband is sitting here. I know he doesn't like it. So Rudy, if you want to not be in the room, it's fine. So I was like, okay, that's a bit too personal. But I was like, अब ठीक है चलती हूँ. गुरुजी पिक्स कहते हैं कि गुरुजी अपनी संगत को जोड़ती है. और गुरुजी ने एक ये डॉक्टर को जोड़ा हुआ था जो डॉक्टर बाय द वे कभी गुरुजी से मिली नहीं थी. She used to be very fearful of Guruji because Guruji used to send, like I said, Guruji used to make love people having babies. So he used to send the most complicated cases to this one gynecologist who had never met her. So when this auntie ji took me, I went, I've never been to a gynecologist, and mind you, I have no problems. I have no reproduction problems at all. No problem. It's not like I was trying and I wasn't being able to have a baby or any of that. So she just said, she's very old actually. Her name is Dr. Raj Gupta. And she just folded her hands and she said, Beta, if Guruji has sent you, तो ज़रूर कुछ होगा. उन्होंने अगर बोला है बेबी कर लो तो कर लो. तो I said, okay, too much information again. And so this lady, auntie ji said, Guruji said you have to have a baby now. So I said, okay, I'll have a baby now, whatever that means. And some parts of Rudy, you can now be quiet. If I don't tell you this, this is why you know, I have to share it. Like I said, I have no problems. It was not like I couldn't get pregnant. Guruji said that you have to have a baby this month. So this auntie, the so-called doctor said that, okay, you don't have to worry. You can come get your tests done. You can do an ultrasound and, you know, you can figure out your dates and you can have a baby. So this auntie ji said, नहीं, हमने short करना है. So I said, okay. Like I said, again, it's all education, you know, you just don't think like that. But this is Guruji's way. He just draws you in. And so she said, okay, हम IUI कर लेंगे. It's not IVF, it's IUI. ठीक है, okay, fine. So we go to the hospital, we do all these tests, and an envelope comes with, I think, 8,000 rupees there was in the envelope. And it apparently came from the mandir. And when I was doing my procedure, she paid the bill. And she said, this is Guruji's marzi, so she's going to pay the bill. And, you know, we were just like, I remember crying because I was like, what am I doing, you know? I mean, how silly am I? Like, what the hell? But I still did it. And my daughter is now 15, so this is 16 years ago. And so I had Guruji's so-called baby. And this was in 2006, October. And all of that year when I was pregnant, this auntie ji was navigating my life like crazy. You know, she would send me food and she would send me chola and she would send me chicken soup and she would send me all these things that saying they're coming from the mandir, you have to have. I was like, okay. And then I love exercising. So I was on bed rest for the first 3 months. I was like, listen, what a pregnancy, you know. I'm like, what the hell? I'm on bed rest for first 3 months. But after when I became okay, I wanted to exercise. So she said, Guruji said, bilkul exercise nahi karna hai. I was like, listen, that's not going to happen. And I started lying to her because I just started getting really irritated by her. And this whole thing was irritating me. You know, even now that I was pregnant, it was really upsetting me. And I started exercising and I used to go to this one particular garden. And somehow she found out. I don't know how Guruji found out, but she found out. So she comes to my house with this other Sangat, one other lady. Her name is Roma. She's still very much a part of the Sangat. They're all very old now. And she gets me this chicken soup and she said, listen, Guruji ne aapko mana kiya na ki exercise nahi karna hai. So I said, listen, now bahut ho gaya. You know, there's nothing wrong with me. So I'm going to exercise. And this is 16 years ago. You know, people never exercise when they were pregnant. So I was like, but I'm going to go and exercise. And she said, okay, next time when you go, you're going to get bitten by a bee. I was like, okay. I said, I've been walking in this park for like 15 years of my life and there are no bees in this park. And in the middle, there were lots of things of Guruji that I can say. His smell, which I used to doubt, it's true. His chola, his blessings, his, all the stories that you hear, they are true because they were happening to me. Your intuition is very high. You make decisions because you just know, and when he says that Guruji talks to you, Guruji has blessed me, and even today he's blessing me, even though I shy away from going to the mandir so much in Delhi. But he does talk to people, and and I think that really means is that when you're talking to yourself or you have an instinct, that's him. When he helps you make these decisions, I think that's him. So for proof, I took him for a walk with me that day for the next 2 days, and I swear I got bitten by a bee on my lip. They have no bees in Lodi Garden. They have never. After that, I've walked even today, 20 years, and I've never seen a bee. But I did get bitten because he's proof. And we got so scared. There are no, there are no bees. So I remember calling up the doctor and saying, oh my God, we got bitten by a bee. We have to have medicine. I was 6 months pregnant then. And anyway, I think that was his first way of showing me that I exist. So you better start believing in me. He did call me after that once. And he said to me in Punjabi that go and tell his mom that she's going to have a boy and that she should be very happy. And I was like, oh my God. I said, now that I'm having a baby, I really want to have a girl, not a boy. And so I prayed and prayed and prayed. And one of the prayers that I had was, in April, Baisakhi, they were decorating the mandir. And he chose me, that Aunty ji chose me, that because I was pregnant, I should decorate. And I remember once I decorated everything, if you see the Bada Mandir, there's his main chair. I was putting the last flower and I purposely picked a pink flower. And I said that if you really exist, because I was still questioning Guruji, and I said, if you really exist, you're going to make me have a girl. So I put this pink daisy or chrysanthemum, I don't remember, and I put it there and I said that was it. In that time, they never used to tell you what you're having in the hospital, but I think at 7 months we found out and it was a girl. So I was very happy. I was like, chalo, he exists. But from there, he called me one day. My father passed away. And believe you me, 6 months in October when I was getting pregnant with my baby, I had this dream about my father. He was not unwell. And again, my husband is there. He'd tell me I woke up in the morning and we were all in London. My sister was there. And I said, I dreamt of Papa and he's not well. And he's, he was looking really XYZ. And this was the scene wasn't exactly to that day, which was in May 18th. That's exactly how I saw my father and I lost him. So like I said, sometimes he just makes you see things. But in May, my July date I found out was 7/7/7, 7 July 2007. So I was like, that is too much of a coincidence for someone to send me money and navigate my whole life to have this baby. And the due date is 7/7/7. How is that even possible? And by then, this whole, controlling me and making me eat this food and that food, it started getting to me a lot. I started getting very upset. I started telling my husband that, listen, this is not normal. I don't think this lady's crazy. That's all I can say because I can see people, but I don't think what she's doing, maybe she's had some baggage from her previous, what happened to her daughter, but I think it's not, I'd already started telling her that I want to put a stop to it. And when my father passed away, she came to my house and she said that, आप cremation ground नहीं जा सकते. And I was like, how? Yes, I'm 7 months pregnant, but I am going. And, she scared him and said, no way, no way, no way. And, I'm married to a Marwari and they also believe in all of this. Somehow I never went. But when I never went, I really held that against her because, I was just like, you've taken such a big thing from my life, not letting me go to my father's cremation. And I was really upset and I decided that I'm going to, at some point, not stop talking to this lady. And unfortunately, I think a week from there, in June, we got a call that Guruji had taken Samadhi. My husband was there in the ambulance because they were all together. Aunty ji was very close to Guruji. And that was it. And Guruji took Samadhi, and I remember going, and in the middle, by the way, in my meeting, when he called me, he said, you have to go and lagao pocha in the Bada Mandir when they're 6 months pregnant. So honestly, like I said, educated, I don't know why, but I went and lagao pocha in that Bada Mandir when I was 6 months pregnant for 1 month, every single day. So anyway, all of this, Guruji took Samadhi, and I remember doing my last round around his Samadhi fresh. And I looked back at Rudy and I said, I'm never coming back. He's no longer there. And this has been too overwhelming for me. Ab main kabhi mud ke wapas nahi aungi. That was it. That was my last time that I ever heard of him, met him. And my baby was supposed to come on 7/7/7. It was the 3rd of July and this baby was nowhere in sight. And the last thing I wanted to be for that baby to be born on 7/7/7, because I would have been obviously really spooked out ki, you know, like he's no longer there and he paid for this baby. What if Guruji is born again? So on the 6th, I called up my doctor and I said, listen, you do whatever it takes. Who has babies on 40 weeks? I said, you do whatever it takes and you induce me and you make me have this baby on the 6th, because I'm not going to have this baby on the 7th because it's just not going to sound right. And she said, are you sure? Are you sure? I said, yes. So we went in and I got induced, and, you know, long story short, towards the end, I did have my baby. She was a few minutes short of 12 o'clock. So I feel, I mean, but the first time I held her was at 7/7/7. So, and if I honestly, if I had waited nature's due course, and if I hadn't pushed as hard, because I was so nervous of not wanting to have this baby on the 7th, that the baby would have come on the 7th. We were just literally half an hour here or there. So that was it. That was my story. And yeah, so they do know. So you know 7 July is Guruji's birthday, right? They all know. That was it. No more Guruji. Nobody ever spoke of Guruji in my house. He was a banned topic. We never wanted to talk about him, and I never spoke to a soul. And at that point, all I kept seeing 15 years from there, Sangat growing. My friends started going to him. People who judged me at that time started going to him. He became very social. Guruji became very social. He became very social. People were going to him. It's just Sangat. And people would be around me and saying, oh, do you go to Guruji? And I was like, no, I don't believe in him. You know, all of that. But that one mantra stayed with me for my life. That was my belief. And that's what I took in my hour of need. But I never thought about him. Just that mantra. Cut to 12 years from then, where his Sangat is growing, and I would run a mile away from anybody who said Guruji's name. I would be like, you know, I didn't want to talk about him at all, because it was such an odd experience that I'd had. And you know, there was one time when my daughter was, I think, 6 months old. I swear I have that photograph where she looked like him in a very odd way. She was Golu and she had these Chinese eyes, and it was really odd. And I went through my own share of depression because I never wanted to get pregnant, right? And I just thought that maybe he's gotten me pregnant, that I can never get pregnant again. But 5 years later, when I decided to have my second baby, I had my second baby. So I never got answers of why he did what he did for me at that point. I still don't, by the way. Anyway, he gave me this mantra, and, you know, in 2017, no, 2000, what is today? 2022. So 2019, during my walks in Lodi Garden, I go there all the time. In November, December, I started reciting the Mahamrityunjay mantra a lot. And like I said, I'm not someone who sits and is not ritualistic, but it was constantly playing in my mind. So much so I asked my mom-in-law, I said, by the way, ye mantra hota kya hai? And you know, we research and you pray for someone's life, and it's one of the most powerful mantras for life. ठीक है. January of 2000, Rudy, was it 19 or 20? 17. We had gone to a party and he fell on a wine glass, and the wine glass went ar-par of his hands, and that thing, you know, blood, we took him to the hospital, got him stitched up. One day later, he couldn't feel his finger. So the doctor said that, you know, we'll have to put him under GA and, you know, stitch him up a little bit. And 5-minute surgery, you can like literally go in and out. So I literally left him walking into the OT. And the doctor was someone we knew. And he said, I'm going to claim insurance, so go and get my stuff back and come back. Wapis aa jao. On my way back, when I had reached the Mata Ka Mandir, I don't know how many of you know Delhi and Apollo Hospital. So I reached that Mata Ka Mandir, New Friends Colony ka red light. I had a shower and quickly come back. And that red light is very long. And I got a call from the OT because I'd given my name there. And they said, are you Rudra Dalmia's wife? And I said, yes. And he said, because apparently it's a out of law, you have to announce it to someone. And I got a call saying that he's had a massive cardiac failure and he's on a ventilator. I was just like, but I just left him like 45 minutes ago being absolutely the way he was. And he walked into the OT. There was nothing wrong with him. I reached there. He was technically pronounced dead because he was not, he had crashed for 1 minute or 2 minutes. And he was on a ventilator inside the OT. I don't know how I reached there. Someone came to pick me up and they basically told me that he had some genetic arrhythmia which got triggered off in the surgery. And, you know, because it was such a routine thing, I was the only one, and then people started coming. I remember that day sitting outside the OT with so many questions in my mind, and I was Chokli Marke sitting and waiting for everyone to come while his ejection fraction, I don't know if you know, is like his heart was beating at like 7%. That also because of the ventilator, and it had already been I think 45 minutes since he was on the ventilator. So they had basically told me that he's not going to make it. So I was sitting outside, cross-legged outside the OT, and I had tears rolling down my eyes. Lots of it I forgot. But that mantra kept playing at the back of my mind all the time. Like that was my own, I didn't know who to pray to, you know. And it wasn't Guruji, but it was that mantra. And 4 hours from there, he started recovering, coming back. And the doctors were also really surprised. And, you know, that he's made it back. And, you know, obviously it was a miracle because I took his reports everywhere. There was nothing wrong with his heart. There was nothing. It was just you know, one of those things that happen in the OT while taking out the GA pipe, got stuck, got his lungs filled with water and got him into a cardiac failure. So a hospital mess up. Such a big hospital, Apollo, they didn't charge us. So the deposit that I had given when we were leaving after 10 days, when there was nothing wrong with him, they gave me back that deposit because they didn't charge us for that whole 10 days. And it was, I think 8,000 or 9,000 rupees. And I had this money in my hand and I didn't know what to do with it. So I said, okay, I am going to take this money because I chanted Guruji's mantra and I'm going to go and give it to the Bada Mandir. That was 13 years later. I went on my own. He was still in the hospital. I took that money. I was sitting in the car and I was howling. Because, you know, I was so overwhelmed. And I remember and, you know, apparently by then Guruji's Bada Mandir had become impossible to get into if you didn't have pull, you know, otherwise you had to wait in line. So I decided that I'm not going to call anybody. मैं अपने आप जाऊंगी. Aram se I went in, reached aage. I don't know, some familiar faces recognized me. They pushed me in front. I remember I was crying. I walked in. I had money in my hand. And I don't know how many of you have been to the Bada Mandir. As soon as you exit, as soon as you go out, there's the Dan Patra, and it's his room on the side. And I took the money and I was putting that money in and I just turned. And you know, every week they display a chola on that side. That was the chola I made him. And I just got goosebumps. I cried and I cried and I cried and I came home. And he gave me a vision that time when I was sitting and doing this, that apparently when I was praying for him, like I said, now I don't know how much of this is true, but apparently he was sitting next to me and while I was chanting, and he went inside, he looked at me. These are the visions that I got when I was sitting that day in the Sangat. And he was sitting next to me when I was crying outside and I was chanting. He looked at me, I looked at him, and he just walked up, went back in, and he went. And I don't even know whether he knows this because we still question this. He went on top of Rudy and pushed him back in. That's what I feel, you know. And I asked my mom-in-law, I said, it was only then I realized the Mahamrityunjay mantra is also called the Rudra mantra. And his name is Rudra. So, you know, that was my Sangat. I don't have answers, but all I can say is he's here, I'm here, I have a daughter. And who is his daughter? And actually today, Guruji, I'm here for your daughter. My daughter is going through a very serious eye condition. We just found out 3 weeks ago. And I wasn't going to come today. But he made so many things happen for me in the last 2 weeks, which I'm surprised that it's a very complicated medical issue, you know, for her eyes, that he made me meet the right doctors. Now I'm feeling, because my daughter never mentioned, we just got it by chance. The severity of which is how she's normalized it in her head. It's just made us cry and cry. But she has to have a surgery, a very complicated one, on the 30th of this month. And I was like telling Rudy that I'm not going to be able to make it. So and I told Guruji, I said, listen, if you want me to come, you have to make sure that all her tests and everything are done before I leave. And I swear, I've been to 5 doctors in Delhi. He sent me to a doctor in Hyderabad. I took that flight back at 6:30, and at 11 o'clock, I was on a flight to New York. So now, Guruji, and to the satsang, I'm here, I think, to pray for his daughter. She has a very complicated surgery on the 30th. So we all want to pray that she is well, and Guruji shows me his miracle again, and I'll never doubt him again. But on the fun side, all I want to say to everyone is that Guruji is there. I'm somebody who doesn't go to the mandir very often. I have a very small photograph of him in my room, and that's the only conversations I have with him. I do converse with him even today. I don't know whether that's true or I make it up. Like right now when I was sitting. So don't doubt your thoughts. That's what I mean, you know. Guruji really, I think this is what he's given me. He strengthens your instincts. He strengthens your decision-making abilities. When you're standing on a crossroad, the instinct that you get, that's him. So it's not, you're not second-guessing it, because there's so many instances that I've missed, because otherwise the satsang would have been too long, where he has guided me out of instinct to do so many things, you know. So right now I also felt, or I don't know, like I still doubt it, that I'm going to take a little bit of the water back in an eye drop, and I'm going to trick my daughter to say it's medicine, and I'm going to, not that it's going to fix it, and hopefully it does, but I just hope that the surgery is a 100% cure with his blessing. So, Jai Guruji, this is my Sangat, Satsang. And all I want to say is, I know a lot of you have not met him, but I can tell you this, that we're all educated. We all are very scientific in our approach and logical. Yes, we believe in karma and God. And for me, I think he's a messenger of God, so he's God-like, because he's the closest to give you immediate answers. So the strength that you get from coming here is your instinct and your belief. So don't ever doubt that. When you want answers, I'll tell you what my trick. So whenever you come here and you have something going on, listen to the words of the song. You will get your answer in there. That's why, like, I got it right now. There will be some word, ya ek word hoga, ya ek sentence hoga, there will be some hint that will give you what your next steps will be. So taking this back and taking the blessings that I get from him, even though I don't come to the Mandir Guruji, because I find it very social in Delhi. You don't have to meet, you don't have to go, you don't have to come. He comes to you. You can start a conversation with him whenever you want. He makes the Sangat meet because he believes in this energy exchange. Everybody is the same. It doesn't matter which background, which religion. That's why we all share food. And I hope this belief, and you go back with today, knowing that the person who gave you the satsang today was just like you. Somebody who didn't believe and did some crazy things in her journey to finally be made to believe that he exists. So thank you. One last thing I actually want to say, the funny parts of Guruji, he never knew what I did for a profession. But somehow he coined my name as Diet Wali Aunty. So in his mind, I'm a Diet Wali Aunty. So I run gyms in Delhi and I'm very careful about my food and all of that. But he never knew what I did. But when he used to refer to me, he used to refer to me as Diet Wali Aunty ko aaj laddu mat dena. Like he would stop me from the mandir and say, "Bahar bhej do." Because he used to be very rude sometimes, you know. He would say, "Bahar chale jao, aaj langar nahi khane ko milega, Diet Wali Aunty ko bolo chale jaye." And I swear I used to be so grateful because I used to hate eating the calories. So even today, I'm always passing my tea to someone, passing my laddu to someone. I'll eat the sabzi, but I won't eat the roti. But that's the relationship I have with him, and he calls me Diet Wali Aunty.